Hi guys, welcome back to another weekly segment of Bold Predictions. It's the segment on my podcast slash channel where I just try and predict basically NFL games and see if I can do it with accuracy. I started to film one last week and I just didn't upload it because there was some interruptions and some conflict that kind of interfered with making the video. So I didn't want to give basically half of something that I had, even though I probably could have recorded another part. I could have recorded more of it later on, but I just decided to scratch the whole thing. But it was more of like a Thanksgiving episode since last week was Thanksgiving. So we kind of missed a week, but that's okay. I'm confident I probably wouldn't have done that well either, seeing how the games played out. But we're back again this week. And so it is week 14 now. In out of 18 weeks, there's 4 more weeks left to go. We're nearing down the wire. We're getting closer to the playoffs. I think there's been a few lots already for two teams who have made the play, who are for certain going to the playoffs or have won their division. I believe the Chiefs and the Bills have already clinched a playoff spot, so there's more spots up for grabs. And like I said, there's still 4 weeks left of football to play, and anything can happen in those 4 weeks. So we'll see how it goes. There's another month. I wouldn't worry for teams that are may be struggling. I wouldn't worry too much yet because, like I said, there's still 4 weeks of football. There's still some time to fix certain things, and depending what conference your football team is in, it could literally be up for grabs. And I think we're seeing that with some of the conferences right now. So let's get into this. I also apologize for my voice because I am definitely starting to feel the beginning stages of getting sick. So excuse that. First game, Thursday night football is the Packers versus the Lions. Now, the Lions are one of the best teams, in my opinion, in the NFL right now. They are a top five team. I'm not going to say whether they are first or fifth, but they are a top five team. And the Packers are, I say are a top 15 team right now. I don't know if they're necessarily top 10. I think they have a lot of talent. I think they have shown that they can beat good teams and find ways to win, but they aren't on that, elite level yet. But with the Lions, what they have been able to do all this season and staying consistent throughout it all, that shows me a lot. And I think when you are able to like utilize all of your players offensively and defensively and work together, that is apparent and that is what good teams do. So for that reason alone, I am going with the Lions because I have liked what they have shown us so far. So I'm going Lions here to beat the Packers. The next game is the Browns and the Steelers. Now the Browns are 3-9. They're coming off pretty, I'd say a pretty good offensively played game last night on Monday Night Football. Jameis Winston threw for nearly 500 yards. That is almost unheard of. It's very much uncommon. He did the impossible almost, but he did have 3 interceptions, and two of those interceptions were pick sixes. That cannot happen when you're playing a team such as the Denver Broncos, who aren't the best of the best, but they're also not the worst of the worst. They are right in the middle. And for a 3-9 Browns team who their week one game against the Cowboys, they looked bad. Like offensively and defensively, they didn't look like the Browns team that we saw last year. And the 3-9 record is very much deserved just for how they have played and how much they have um, lost games just by not taking care of the ball properly and also not working together. With the Steelers, they are 9-3. They were a top five team for me a few weeks ago, but to but when you lose in the snow, which I get it, playing in the snow is hard. It can be challenging. We saw that Sunday Night Football with the 49ers and how they struggled playing the Bills in cold weather and in snowy conditions as well. That shouldn't be an excuse, but it is hard when you have teams from the South and from, the Western Coast who just aren't used to cold weather, whereas some other teams who pretty much play in cold weather most of the season are adaptable to it. So I'm not saying that's an excuse for the Steelers for why they have lost some of their games because of the weather conditions. I am picking the Steelers over the Browns because they have a great defense. Russell Wilson is thriving with the Steelers offense and with the coaching staff. Um, I think he's gained a lot better. I think he's receiving better coaching than he did with the Broncos. So, and he's looking like a really good quarterback again. So I'm going with the Steelers just because I feel like they can take care of the ball a lot better than what the Browns can do at the moment. Okay, then we have Saints Giants. The Giants are tied for as one of the worst teams in the NFL right now with only 2 wins. And the Saints, who are 4-8, are much better. They have a few more wins than them, but still 4-8 won't get you anywhere except for if you're playing one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. The Giants did make it somewhat of a game on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. I know Drew Lock started in place of Tommy DeVito, who got injured or was dealing with a shoulder injury. But and Drew Lock is good. We've seen him be good in the past, but we haven't seen him what he looked like with the Giants up until Thanksgiving. I thought he played good. He didn't play well enough to win, but he played good, minus the turnovers that he committed as well. With the Saints have lost to the Panthers before. They have lost games in which they should have won. I know I've said that before, but in this scenario, knowing that they have come back to win games when I didn't think that that was possible, I am picking the Saints, not because they have the better record, so to speak, but because I have more faith that in their whole team dynamic rather than the Giants who have to kind of get used to a new quarterback fill in their position. Starting off the season with Daniel Jones. Now, Daniel Jones wasn't great in New York. That was apparent by their 2 wins, but it's not like Tommy DeVito has been any better, and Drew Lock hasn't been much better either because these quarterbacks are not winning with the team. They just aren't. And I think what the Giants really need is a fresh start, a brand new coaching staff, to really coach these players and develop them so they can go out and win games, and they just don't have that at the moment. Then we have the Jets and the Dolphins. The Jets are 3-9, and the Dolphins are 5-7. The Jets might be one of the most disappointing teams right now in the season with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers deserves to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. There's no denying that. What he has done for the game and what he's done in his career with Green Bay is exceptional. But he is getting up there in age now. There are players who are young who are taking over the spotlight and getting much deserved credit for their game. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that Aaron Rodgers is past his prime at this point. And the Jets have an organizational problem by firing their head coach midseason. I won't speak too much about that because I feel like that's not my place to say. We could talk about it maybe like on a main episode or a different segment, but and with the Dolphins, they are making a comeback surge from losing Tua to a concussion at the beginning of the season and then going out and now winning games when they got him back. They're 5-7. I think their playoff chances are still very slim, but they are winning again. And if you can win with your players, if you can win with your best players on the field and you can win without your best players on the field, that says a lot about the player development and the coaching staff on these particular organizations. So I am going with the Dolphins because Tua can be a really good quarterback. He can kind of get sloppy with the ball at times. Last week's game for the Dolphins probably wasn't um, the best representation of that in their loss to the Packers. But again, going based off of the organization and all, the Dolphins have better structure there than the Jets do at the moment. So I'm going Dolphins. Then we have the Jaguars and the Titans. The Jaguars are 2-10. The Titans are 3-9. And this is tricky because the Titans were one of the Titans are definitely a bottom five team for me this season, and it's not even close. I would argue that they could be dead last, but there there is maybe one or two teams who are worse than them. The whole Jaguars Texans game Sunday was a little bit of a doozy, but I'm going with the Jaguars. Um the way that they managed to hold their own against the Texans really resonated with me. And I know that Trevor Lawrence is out with a concussion, but I have faith that the Jaguars can come together and win for their quarterback who might miss a few games. And like I said, with the Titans, who knows? I don't have that much faith in them right now, which is why that's not to say I have a lot of faith in the Jaguars either, but I'm going with Jaguars. Then we have the Falcons Lions game. Now the Falcons are 6-6 and the Vikings are 10-2. I think see this is I need to figure out how to word this properly right now. I when you take a quarterback like Kirk Cousins who was in his prime years ago and is getting up there in age as well. there is a there is a cause for concern at that point because your older quarterbacks don't have the same agility nor the same mobility that they had 5 years ago. Kirk is a great quarterback. I know he's a great quarterback, but just like Aaron Rodgers, they are nearing the end of their prime era, and that is okay. We don't expect these older quarterbacks to be the same player that they were like 4 years ago. That's just what happens when you grow older. Same with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco was great a few seasons ago, or however long ago that he came into the league. But with younger players and younger athletes starting to get more attention in the media, in the spotlight, it's their time to shine now. Kirk didn't have the best game last week, and that was pretty noticeable with his turnovers, mistakes that you wouldn't expect him to make. The the Falcons should test their options with the quarterback that they drafted in this year's draft with Michael Penix Jr. Just put him in and see what he can do with the offense. And he's had time to sit and learn from a veteran such as Kirk Cousins. I know the Falcons paid him a lot of money in the offseason to get him. So letting him go probably isn't the best nor the right choice to make, especially when you gave up so much money to get a player in the first place. But I am going with the I'm going with the Vikings here. They are 10-2. They are a top 10 NFL team at the moment. And even though the Falcons are 6-6, they are at 500. The Vikings are just the better team at the moment. Then we have the Panthers and the Eagles. I'm not even going to state their records because the Eagles are a top 3 NFL team at the moment, and the Carolina Panthers are a bottom 5 team at the moment. Now, the Panthers did almost come away with a win in Tampa Bay against the Buccaneers. If should they have won that game? I Yes, they should have won, but the defense, I think Carolina's defense was worn out, which allowed the Bucs to go ahead, tie the game, send it to overtime, and win that game in overtime. Bryce Young is getting some of his confidence back, and he's already looking like a better player. I Him getting benched was the right decision to do, and I know some people disagree with players getting benched mid-season, but that's probably the best thing that could have happened to Bryce Young. Benching, not quite benching him, but sitting him down, allowing another quarterback to take over for a few weeks, learn from that quarterback, in which case was Andy Dalton, and who has had prior NFL experience before, sitting back, watching him play, and then when Dalton went out with his injury, Bryce Young coming back, he was refreshed, he was recharged, and you saw almost an entirely different person out on that field. He's already better than he was his rookie year. And that says a lot because he had time to finally just sit back and watch a quarterback who has more experience and more years than him, learn from him, get tips, get that some advice from him if possible, and then apply it to his own game. He has a lot more confidence. You can tell that he is finding a rhythm And the Panthers are winning some games now ever since he took over the starting role again. And that's huge. But like I said, the Eagles are a top three team at the moment. I don't think it's even close. They have uh elite running back in Saquon Barkley. They have a great quarterback in Jalen Hurts. And their defense too. They have beaten some of these great teams that we talked about, such as the Baltimore Ravens. So I am going with the Eagles. Then we have the Raiders and the Buccaneers. The Raiders are 2-10. The Bucs are 6-6. I don't know what's going on with the Raiders organization, but whatever it is, it's not good. I'm going Bucs here. I know they barely beat the Panthers, but they are the better football team than the Raiders are at the moment. And I also want to say that the Raiders lost to the Panthers earlier in the season, and that is a factor that I'd have to take in as well. Then we have Seahawks Cardinals. The Seahawks are 7-5, first place in the NFC West. The Cardinals are 6-6. This could be a good game. And I'm going I'm going Cardinals on this one because I I'm going Cardinals with the sole reason that their quarterback has more mobility. Kyler Murray has more ability. He can run the ball, he can throw the ball. Geno Smith, albeit he's a good quarterback, he just can't use his legs as efficiently as Kyler can. And this game is going to come down to offense, who can score, who can throw the ball better, who can take care of the ball, who can score in the end zone. And by scoring, I mean touchdowns, not settling for field goals. And the Cardinals hold that slight advantage over the Seahawks at that moment. So I'm going Cardinals. And then we have the Bears and the 49ers. The 49ers, let's talk about the 49ers quickly. Are the Do they have arguably one of the top rosters in the NFL the past 3 seasons? Without a doubt, yes. Do they look like a team with the best, one of the top rosters this season? Absolutely not. They are, with their loss to the Bills on Monday Night Football, they are 5-7. They are sole last in the NFC West. That is unusual for a great 49ers team. I don't want to make excuses for them. They should have 8 wins in this season right now. They blew a fourth quarter lead against the Rams. They blew a fourth quarter lead against the Vikings. And they also blew, I believe, a fourth quarter lead over the Cardinals. Those are 3 games in which they should have won without question. We wouldn't see them in this position right now had they come through clutch when it mattered most. And even Kansas City, I feel like that was a game in which they could have won as well. So there's the potential that they could be sitting at 9-3 right now, but they're not. They have been plagued by a ton of injuries. They have Their defense has lost players to injury. Some of their players are still playing through injury at the moment. And on the offensive side, they are missing key players who were on the team that went to the Super Bowl this February. Christian McCaffrey, believe, has suffered a season-ending injury in his PCL right as they just got him back from his Achilles injury earlier this year, earlier in the season. That's a tough loss. They lost their RB1, and now they've lost their RB2 to Jordan Mason, who's going on injury reserve. They're missing Nick Bosa on defense. They're missing Trent Williams, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL. They've missed Diamador Lenore defensively. they're missing a lot of key players, and they've missed players in the past. Brock Purdy couldn't play against the Packers due to a shoulder injury. Jake Moody injured his ankle. He couldn't play for a few games. So, and losing players to injury, you don't want to see any player go out with an injury, but you especially don't want to see a team whose aura is this stacked up roster with incredible talent. When you lose part of that little by little, that causes a drift in the environment and in the culture of the team and in the organization. So, are the 49ers still a good team? Yes. They might not, their record might not show it. They have gotten blown out the past 2 or 3 games at this point. They're not losing by one score anymore. I think other teams have figured out how to pick apart their defense. Their offense just isn't clicking as what they used to. But the Bears have a even bigger organizational problem. They just fired their head coach after a pretty bizarre, crazy ending on over Thanksgiving. I don't know how to put that into words, but it was bizarre and crazy. And for lack of better words, dumb by the head coach. Why he couldn't just call a timeout and gather his team and drop a play that could have saved his job and could have gotten the Bears over their losing slump. I'm going I'm going 49ers. They are playing at home. I know they have lost 3 straight games in a row now, or 4 straight games in a row now, but the Bears have lost 5 straight at this point. So it's up for grabs. I think the 49ers have have the ability to regroup, bounce back, and show that they are still in it rather than the Bears who are completely falling apart. Next game, Bills versus Rams. The Bills are 10-2. The Rams are 6-6. I'm going Bills. I like they they were the best team on Monday against the 49ers, but they also just looked like the best team in the NFL. Josh Allen has great talent surrounding him, but he's also a great talent himself in how he can run the ball, how he can throw the ball, how he can extend plays. The Bills defense too was able to hold off the 49ers running game. I think losing CMC did work in the Bills defense favor. Isaac Orlando is good, but he's not Christian McCaffrey. He's also not Jordan Mason, who pretty much rose to the occasion while CMC was out. But I like the Bills in this scenario. I know the Rams have a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford as well, but I just I feel I feel weird not picking the Bills over the Rams. Okay, and then we go into Sunday Night Football. It's Chargers versus Chiefs. The Chargers are 8-4 and the Chiefs are 11-1. I'm going hmm, I'm going Chiefs here. They don't look like a good they don't look like an 11-1 team. They have barely managed to squeeze by some very close games in which they should have blown other teams out. I think the Panthers game really solidified that and how the Panthers managed to make it a game where it should not have been as close of a game as it was. But nonetheless, the Chiefs still find ways to win. And in the end, that's what it comes down to. which team can find a way to win even if you've played super poorly. All that matters is the end result and not what happened in the past 3.5 or 3 and 3/4 quarters before. I'm going Chiefs. I don't feel strong about it. I think some of these close wins are going to catch up to them. That is a concern for the playoffs if they have to go play some of these better teams. Playing playing how they play against the Panthers is not going to win you a game against the Eagles or the Bills or the Ravens at this particular moment in time or against the Lions. So the Chiefs need to really dial in. They need to really regroup. They need to find their identity, find their pattern, and get back to some of their earlier habits that we saw last season. And then finally, Monday Night Football. It's Bengals versus the Cowboys. The Bengals are 4-8, and the Cowboys are 5-7. The Cowboys, the Cowboys season has been a whirlwind of ups and downs, right? So they got a good week 1 win against the Browns, and then they lost a few straight games. Some of the games they got blown out by. Then they won a game in the middle against a good Steelers team. That momentum went up, and then they went on another losing streak. They lost their starting quarterback in Dak Prescott due due to a season-ending injury. They got blown out by the Lions. They got blown out by the Texans. They did not look good against the 49ers, but now they are starting to kind of find their identity again. The win against the Commanders was a good win for them. That kind of restored some of Cooper Rush's confidence. He played great there. And then again, against the Giants, even though the Giants are uh worse, the Giants are not good and are a bottom 5 NFL team, they still found ways to go out play physical and attack the ball. And that's what you want to see from players. Even if you don't feel confident that your team is going to make the playoffs in the future, still going out there and playing for your teammates, playing for your coaches, playing for just each other goes a long ways. And that's what we're seeing with the Cowboys right now. They are going out there. They are playing physical and they are playing to win. And that's what you want to see from every single player on every single team. On the Bengals side, Joe Burrow he's very talented. He's very mobile. He has the traits of an elite quarterback, but the Bengals just don't look good. They don't look good on screen, but on paper, what you've seen, the Bengals offense has accumulated 99 points over the last 3 or 4 games, I believe. I think I saw that on the graphic. And those in all three of those their games they have lost. So they are not finding ways to win, even though they are playing well and they are being very cautious with not turning the ball over. They are scoring points, but they're just not finishing it out. They're not just digging the final nail in the coffin. And that's kind of what you have to do sometimes. This is a toss up for me. It really is. It's 50-50. Joe Burrow is better than Cooper Rush. And I know Cooper Rush is a backup quarterback, but still, even if Cooper Rush was a starting quarterback, I would be more inclined to take Joe Burrow over him. The Bengals not being able to win games, even though their offense is providing points for them. is why I think I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this scenario. Yeah, I had something else to say, but then I lost my train of thought. I'm going Cowboys here. They've won two straight games. They've they won those two games in their division. And beating division rivals is a confidence booster for any team. You want to beat your division rivals because that gets you either ahead of them or gets you below them. The more wins you gather in your conference, the better your overall record is going to be, the better your division record is going to be, if that's a thing that they do. Whoever is on top of their set, whichever team is on top of said division at the end, is the team that more or less goes to the playoffs. So I, the NFC East is still kind of, I'm not gonna say it's up for grabs anymore because I think the Eagles are running away with that division title, but it could be a second place battle between the Commanders and the Cowboys. But going back to Monday Night Football, I'm gonna say the Cowboys for this, and that is all. Thank you guys for for watching bold predictions this week. I apologize, it wasn't probably as high of energy as it could have been, but we made it through. Hopefully, some of these predictions are somewhat accurate, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to another great week of football, and join me next week when I do this again. Bye.